He's young, if you can't tell, and he's like accomplished so much more than anyone I've ever seen in this business. He's just lightning fast. So when I tell you he knows how to do multifamily, this is your guy.
So I'll just give a little background, and then maybe we can get into discussions about the market and deals and what we do. So a little bit of an interesting story. I went to college originally. I thought I was going to be a dentist. Didn't like it. Didn't want to do it. Switched to business. And then my mind went to, what is the fastest way I can make $1 million a year? Okay, maybe it's like investment banking or consulting. So really quickly fast tracked to doing some internships in the investment banking space. My junior year, I met some partners at the firm that bought multifamily real estate, and I just got so intrigued, and I found bigger pockets, and I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I pretty much dropped everything. I basically said no to any job offers I had, and I said I'm going all in real estate. My senior year in college, I basically skipped all my classes, convinced my teachers to pass me, and in the meantime, I was looking for deals. And I bought my first property. It was a 12-unit complex in a city called Garden City, Michigan. It was back in 2016. And I had no money. I had maybe like $2,000 or $3,000 saved up. And somehow, through doing exactly what you guys are doing now, going to meetups, networking, and meeting people at these events and trying to figure out who has the money, who's got $25,000, $50,000, $100,000, I scraped together $200,000 for the down payment to buy this 12-unit apartment complex. I got another gentleman to sign on the note for me, and I went in and I self-managed it, and I did all the work. We renovated this property. We ended up doing pretty well on it, turned it around, made a good profit for the investors, and that was kind of the start for me. So by the end of my senior year in college, I bought another 12-unit, and then I house hacked. I don't know if this is a record or not, but I house hacked a 96-unit apartment complex. I bought it from an old gentleman who was a billionaire. I sent him a mailer, and he called me off a mailer that I sent. He actually has a condo down in Miami, and this was up in Michigan in a C-class suburb. This guy owned a property that he built 50 years ago. He built it, he owned it free and clear. It was 96 units, and it was his oldest and smallest property. And for me, it was just this monster of a property that, how do I even begin to think about taking this deal down? I didn't even know. I'd already bought 2 deals. I didn't even know what agency debt was. I didn't know what Freddie Mac loans were and all, So I get into this property. He basically threw me a bone, and I put it under contract for like $40,000 a unit. I moved on site. I self-managed it. I hired a maintenance person, and I was in there leasing units and overseeing the construction, and I had tenants knocking on my door at 10 at night giving me issues. I tried not to tell anyone I was the owner, but they always find out somehow. And so that was probably the best learning experience I ever had in this business, and from there I just kept buying. So over the past 7 years, we bought a little over 1,400 units, a couple self-storage facilities. I've got some commercial mixed-use properties as well. Fortunately, sold a lot of the multifamily in 2021, 2022, but we're still buying today. We've got a 45 unit we're closing on next month. I'm an opportunistic investor. I don't kind of box myself into, I only do 100 units or more, or certain size. I'm pretty much anything that makes sense. It's a good deal, because in real estate, I think like Warren Buffett, it's all about the value on the purchase, right? In real estate, you make money when you buy, not when you sell. And that was a new concept to me, when I was early on in the business. Like, okay, you make money when you buy, not when you sell. But it's really true, right? Because for a deal to be profitable long term and actually make money on it, you have to buy it right. And so I think what my superpower was, and what I try to instill in people, is that this is such a numbers-based business. And you have to focus a lot on what is the right number to buy a property for it to be profitable, right? The better price you get, the lower the debt's going to be, the better the cash flow is going to be, the better your project's going to turn out. So so fast forward, I moved from Michigan to Austin, Texas. We're based there. Now we buy there and back in Michigan. And 2 years ago, I started a software company called Real Estate Lab. You'll see some of our swag around the room. And it's an underwriting software for multifamily investors, a bunch of nerdy stuff, but you can upload financial statements. It will read the financial statements, put data into your model. We have like rent comps, like all this cool stuff you can do in the software. So I'm not a tech guy, never was, but I guess I am now. And we've built this really cool software platform that we've got about 150 companies that we currently work with and growing. So yeah, I guess I do a little bit of software and real estate now.
Going forward today, I mean, you've bought things from 12 units to well over 100 units. What are you looking at today? I know you're kind of just an opportunistic buyer, but is there a particular unit count or a particular asset class that you're looking at or looking for today? What are you looking to buy right now?
Well, we were just sitting, where's Peter? We were just sitting at dinner and had a couple drinks, and I was like, I kind of want to buy a 200 unit deal next. It just really depends. Again, opportunistic, it depends on the deal and where we could find like a good value on the buy. But I think in today's market, you either have to be on top of it with brokers, right, which we've got some here, and you've got to be talking to them on a weekly basis so that when they find a good deal, before they bring it to market, they have you top of mind to bring that deal to, and you have to be very fast in communicating with them before they go and bring it to somebody else, because he's got a list of 50 plus people, 100 plus people or more that he can easily bring it to, right, and get an offer from. So one, you're working with brokers very closely and you're on the ball and you're fast when they do bring you a deal. Or two, you go direct to seller off market and you either call them yourself or you mail them, or you meet them through the network of investors, and it's sifting through a lot of maybe not so good deals to find that one diamond in the rough that will work.
Which one have you had more luck with, going direct to seller or the broker relations? Both are important, right? But what have you had more luck with?
Yeah, I'd say it's a heavy mix. I've done some really good deals with brokers that were off market or on market. Actually, I'm buying a deal right now that was on market for 2.5 years. And it's this 90-year-old man. It's a 45 unit in San Antonio. And this 90-year-old man, he lives on site and he's owned it free and clear for 20 years. And he had it on the market. He wanted like $4.5 million for it. I think a year and a half ago, I offered $3.2 million. And he didn't even counter me. They didn't even respond. The broker's like, sorry, but the seller just ignored me when I told him. Fast forward, and this is probably, March of this year, or February, I followed back up. And what happened was the gentleman, he's in his 90s, he's very old, his kids took over his estate. And his kids did not want this property anymore, but they now have the decision making. And I made an offer at the right time. It was just timing aligned. And I made an offer. I said, okay, I'll come up to 3.5. And this guy wanted like $5 million for years. And they just took it on the spot because it was just a pure timing play. So a lot of this is just timing and being on top of it. And some of it's getting lucky, but you get lucky if, I have a mentor that always said, you have to be present to receive your presents. That's how I kind of live with it. You just have to be doing it constantly, right, to get that deal.
That's cheesy. That's funny.
Yeah, it's cheesy.
What markets are you buying in?
I'm buying in Central Texas, Austin, San Antonio, and then Metro Detroit, like suburbs of Detroit, Michigan, not in Detroit.
Why up there?
It's just where I'm from. I know the market really well. It's easy for me to pick out and choose like what street the deal's on,
If anything, what are you doing differently with the changes in interest rates and insurance in Florida? How have you had to adjust with the changing market cycle?
Yeah, I feel like now is different from 6 months ago. Like if you asked me a year ago, my getting creative was maybe doing creative value adds, right? With the interest rates where they're at today, put out more offers and be a little bit more patient and try and find something that's got some cash flow, from the start. But again, it really depends. I think it's location dependent. We do a lot of transformational type rehabs where we take a property that's like you wouldn't bring your mom to, and then we'll do like a full renovation on it and turn it into something really nice. We'll like double the rents. We're doing one in Austin right now where the rents were like $900 on average, and now they're like $1,700 on average after the fact. So I think it's totally like market dependent, deal dependent. Every deal is like we look at it through a different scope,
So obviously it has to be in a good area.
Yes.
So I think that's also considering a diamond in a rough situation. It's not just about the dollars on the deal. It's actually, is it a diamond in the rough location-wise, which
Correct.
That actually is harder to find, I think, than the numbers. Where your deal is at that you were just talking about, where you kind of like put pickleball courts in it and dog park and all that. Like, how would you describe that surrounding area? Would you say you bought a C class in an A area or B?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, C and an A. It's probably C minus and an A plus area.
Super
rare. Yeah, very rare. I don't know what I would relate it to around here. Somebody said what's that big development that's happening? Gasworks, is that a thing?
Yes.
So there's an area that used to be an airport that was decommissioned when Austin built its main airport. And it was 20 years in the making, turning this into a $3 billion master plan community. And so my next door neighbor is 6 stories tall, 370 unit, like the most Class A building I've ever seen. Actually, it's beautiful. Like you walk in and the doors that you're walking through are like $20,000 doors. It's crazy. And so I bought this little 21 unit next door to it, which just looks like nothing. But my rents are $700 to $1,000 below their 1 and 2 bedroom rents. So I'm targeting a different market, but I'm next to all this cool stuff. It's walkable restaurants, stores, parks, like all this cool stuff in this neighborhood. And so for me, everyone sees this little property and they're like, oh, I don't want to deal with it. It's like it's like a dog on the street, you know? And I look at it and I'm like, oh, this could be really cool. It had this little piece of land in the back. So we called it the Court Apartments, and I built a pickleball court because everybody's raging about pickleball.
Yeah.
We added the old laundry room. We took it and we turned it into a sauna and a cold plunge because we added laundry to all the units.
I was going to say that's a big value add right there.
It's a big value add, and that's something that I'm very opinionated on, is that in the next decade, properties without laundry will soon become obsolete. I mean, think about it, like previous generation, they grew up, you know, in those type of apartments with common laundry facilities and shared laundry. But after 1990, they really stopped building stuff with shared laundry, and it's all laundry and unit or hookups, right? Even in C-class, you know, older stuff in the 90s and early 2000s. So I think you give it another 10 years and you're going to have an absolute rent cap for properties that don't have laundry and unit. So everything we buy, we pretty much add laundry to.
When you're looking at deals, what's your investment philosophy? Are you looking to hold forever? Are you looking to get in and get out quickly and maximize the IRR for the investor? What are you looking to do when you're buying deals?
Yeah, I think everyone's got like a different outlook on this. What I say is that if I buy a property that's in a really good location, so location's good, that's number one. 2, it's a growing location. So that location in 10 years will be better than it is today, and I can very confidently say that. 3, I could make it a low maintenance property. I can renovate it to the point where it's not going to be a hassle for me. It's not going to be a headache down the road. Then to me, that's a property I don't ever want to sell. I'm going to buy it and hold it for 10, 20 years, whether I have to buy out partners down the road or, you know, whatever it may be. Like that property should never be sold. We should pay it off and we should hold it till the day we die. That's how I think. If it's not in a good location, maybe it's a value add, it's not in a good location, the area is maybe stagnant, but it's still, you're buying it at a great price and you can turn a nice profit on it. To me, that's a flip. So I bucket the 2, and if it's in a great location, I'll never sell it.
Do you see yourself doing cash out refis and trying to keep leveraging up, or do you eventually plan to let those pay down? And, you know, in the commercial deals, they're 5 to 10 year debt terms. Do you plan on letting it pay down and just refinance the loan balance, or do you plan on cash out refinancing every 5 to 10 years on those properties?
I think maybe a combination of both. Yeah, like the refi could be used for a buyout. You know, for example, if I have to buy out, you know, several investors and I own half the equity and I have several investors own the other half, maybe I don't take any cash out on the refi and I just use all of that to buy everybody out and give them a fair profit. You know, that could work. Or if I have partners that want to hold long term, we'll just all cash out refi together and hold it. And then if we have really good like fixed rate long-term debt, we'll just sit on that and pay down the principal. That's tough, right? Because it's so hard. I mean, at this point in my life when I'm growing, it's tough to pass up a good cash out refi to pull out some liquidity and keep putting it into new deals to grow. So
separate question, because we're active buying deals and you know, we're kind of where you were probably 5 years ago. But you know, what made you get into starting a software company and a mastermind?
I built a spreadsheet that I used to underwrite deals, and I put that spreadsheet on my website, and people started just word of mouth, like buying it like crazy. And it was just an underwriting model. And this is 2018, like, you know, the syndication was becoming like a buzzword and a lot of podcasts and stuff. And so I think people talked about it a lot. And so I sold a lot of copies of that, and I was like, maybe software application can do a lot more than a spreadsheet can do on its own. So that's kind of how the idea came about. And then Since then, I've spent significantly more money on it than I thought I would. But I brought in some really cool partners, and we've been fortunate enough to grow a lot. And even in the slowest, like right now, I think it's probably the slowest part that I've seen in the last 7 years, multifamily wise, in terms of like deals getting done, people with pencils down. But we're still growing, so I feel like just when times get really good, it'll be a good long-term investment. But yeah, it's interesting. I'm not from the tech space, so I knew nothing about it. And probably made a million mistakes along the way, but it's been fun. It's been rewarding.
I really liked, because you can model out buying back equity and different things that aren't normal in other underwriting tools. And not to prop you up or anything, but his mastermind was great for us. We were able to early on underwrite deals and then push it out to him, push it out to the group, and make sure that what we thought was a deal was actually a deal, which boosted the confidence and helped us execute on deals that maybe otherwise we would have balked at or walked away from, which was really cool. And your underwriting tool is great.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, the community's fun. For me, I'm not... if you guys have been in the space for a while, there's a lot of coaches and gurus and whatnot, and they'll happily pull 20 grand on your credit card for a coaching program that you may or may not get something out of. And I'm personally, no knock on that, it's their business, but I don't think of it like that way. I'm a deal junkie. I'm a real estate investor first, but I also like educating people and doing this and bringing and connecting people, right? And it's not that I don't get anything from it either. I get, sometimes deals and cool friendships and connections, investors, but we do it like stupid cheap compared to what a lot of these gurus are. And I get on a call every single Monday with our community, and we go through deals and talk on different topics. I'm basically there to just help and give advice and make sure nobody's making any mistakes getting into these deals. And then obviously out of that, people will do deals with each other in the group, and you'll learn how to underwrite deals, and you'll learn how to look at deals. And so, yeah, it's been really fun. We've had 350 people come through that over the last 3 years now. So I think we have 75 active members. So yeah, it's a really great group. And I enjoy doing it. I think it's fun. Yeah, every Monday, I don't think, maybe 2 weeks in the last 3 years I've missed, but every Monday it's we have our Monday night calls and we go over deals.
We talked about kind of where you're at, what you're doing now. What is your favorite deal you've done, and what is your hell deal? I will never do this again. I'm so glad I sold it, or I can't wait to sell it.
Both. I'll say both. Both were good deals, but I'll say both of them. I'll start with a bad deal that turned out to be a blessing. I bought a 156 unit C-class multifamily property in a town called Freeport, Texas, and it's 2 hours south of Houston. It's an oil and gas chemical controlled town. So when you're in those type of towns, when there's one main employer, you guys may hear, you get these huge employment swings, right? They'll hire a bunch of people and then they'll let a bunch of people go. And those people live in normally C-class, middle market housing. So I bought this property for 56 a door. I think we paid 8 point something for it. That was in January of 2019. By March of and it was 90% occupied when we bought it. By March, that market had tanked. Literally within 3 months, we lost, I think, 30% occupancy. I had a bridge loan. We were going through a renovation. We couldn't hit our rents. We couldn't keep it full. People were just leaving because they were unemployed now. And this gentleman walks by and literally knocks on the door of my office in Austin and says, "Hey, I'm Bill. I see you own this property down in Freeport." He's like, "What do you want for it?" And I'm like, "It's not for sale." That's just me playing tough. Of course I want to sell it. "It's not for sale." And he's like, "Well, name your price." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "So Hurricane Harvey had happened a year or two prior. He buys affordable housing, and he had this grant from the state of Texas to basically buy any property within these specific boxes. And we were in one of those boxes." And he's like, "Name your price." And I'm like, "Oh, I've never gotten that before." And so I was like, "Well, maybe 11 million. And he's like, "Done." And I'm like, "Fuck, I should have gone higher." I should have said 13. But you can't be greedy. So anyways, literally 3 months later, we sold it, and that property is at 60% occupancy. What I learned from that, the lesson, obviously that sounds like a good story. Yes, we made money, but I will never again buy a property in a town that's controlled by one industry, because if I hadn't, that deal probably would have gone back to the bank, and I would have lost it, and I would have lost some investors' money. Best deal ever, surprisingly out of the span of all these different sizes of deals, was probably a 20-unit property that I bought in Michigan. From direct to seller from a mailer. I bought a portfolio of 11 properties I had under contract for $15 million right before COVID hit. I retraded them down to $12 million. I retraded them like $2.5 million because COVID hit, and they were scared shitless of COVID. They didn't think we would close. So we got a huge knock off the price. I bought 4 of those 11 properties, one of which was this 20 unit. I still own the others as well. And I wholesaled the other 7. I remarked those 7 back up to the original price, which ended up being almost like a $2 million spread on a wholesale. So we wholesaled 7 properties to 3 different buyers for $2 million. And then the other 4 I bought, and I bought them for like $60 a door, and they're worth like $200,000 a unit.
You said you hadn't done creative
So,
deals, but that's like one of the most.
That was really. I had 11 separate purchase agreements. My legal bill at the end of that deal was like $250,000 because amendments and extensions. It took me 6 months to close it, but yeah, we made. I mean, all in all, probably $4 or $5 million, including the equity and the other deals I bought. But and I'll tell you the good and the bad. It all sounds great, right? So I'll tell you the bad. The three of the 4 properties I bought, I put $0 in. I raised $1 million at 8% with no equity. Me and one other partner held 50% equity each of these 28 units. We bought them for I don't know the numbers. We bought them for like 1.6. We sold them for 2.7. So me and my partner paid the 8% coupon to these investors, and then had about $1.3 million to split in profits. Me and him took that $1.3 million. We 1031'd it into a 52-unit apartment complex in Michigan, just up the road in a fantastic area. I bought it with floating rate debt in 2021 when rates were 3.5%. And we hit our value add perfectly. We brought all the rents up. My rent roll when we bought it was $35,000 a month. Today, we still own it. We are making $60,000 a month. So we crushed our value add plan on it. My debt went from $25,000 a month and is now at 8.5%. So my debt is now $50,000 a month. So every 3 months, instead of making money on this great property that I made we each made probably $600,000 off of, and 1031'd it into this new property, I now have 0 of that in value because the property is not worth what we thought it would be. And I actually have to put $20,000 into that property every 3 months to help it cover the debt. So
wait, why is that not your worst deal?
That should be my worst deal, but I still love it because she's so beautiful and a great location. It's a good. I'm selling it right now.
What made you take floating debt when rates were 3.5?
Because rates were 3.5%. I mean, it's so hard to turn down at the time. Like nobody knew rates were going to go up. Even if rates went up, nobody knew rates were going to triple almost, right?
Well, I think that's the thing. That's the gotcha. It's
a
people
gotcha.
knew they'd go up, but not within 12 months.
Buy a rate cap for $100,000. Why? Rates are 3.5. They're never going to go up to 8%. They went up to 8%, 8.5%. I mean, it's just one of those things you don't expect. And so, so that property, which I made all this money on with putting $0 into, I'm all into it for probably 7.4. I put it on the market. We're getting offers like 6.8. So I can't refi out of it. My debt's $5.8 million. And my quotes from the bank are, well, this is 5 months ago, even when rates were even lower, were like 5.2. So if I refi, I have to put all this money back into it.
Wow.
So it's good. I'm not going to just share the good. That's good and the bad, right? And I'm feeding it every couple months to pay the debt.
My question, rolling it back to when you're fresh out of college, getting to your first deal, you're 21, 22 years old, and you said you had $2,000 to $3,000 in your bank account. How did you approach the equity raise on that? Did you bring in partners? Capital partners? Was it like super intimidating for you? How did you go about that?
Yeah, I don't know if it was just like, lack of experience, maybe like overconfidence in it. I just feel like I put a decent little presentation together, and I just pitched as many people as I could with like blind faith in the deal. Not having experience, but trusting that, you know, with the rents I felt I could get, it's going to be able to cover the debt and cash flow. So that's kind of the mindset I went into it with, is just, and it was just pitch as many people as I could. And I probably got 50 plus people say no, and I had 5 people say yes.
Were you like going to meetups to find these people to pitch? Or
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think my first investors were a guy that owned like a State Farm agency locally, 2 people that flipped houses, and maybe I think it was a doctor or something was the other one. So it's just like a random hodgepodge of people that could write a $25,000 or $50,000 check.
Let's say you have a separate business other than real estate. How do you go about purchasing the apartment with the money from your business so that you can like offset your taxes and stuff like that?
I love that.
Good
It's a
question.
great question. Well, I'd say the first thing is, like when you get into this business, you hear a lot of noise, and a lot of people are like, oh, you have to do like huge properties and 100 plus units. Like, I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with starting with like a 4-plex or a 6-plex or 10 units or even a duplex. Like, just buy something, because having any commercial real estate, right, 4 or 5 units or more is going to give you tax write-offs. You're going to have the ability to cash flow. Eventually, you build some equity, cash out refis, which you're not going to pay any taxes on that. Or you could sell it and maybe 1031 those proceeds, right? So I think there's no reason to say, you know, you need to go for this massive property and syndicate 20 investors and do all this. Like, figure out for you what's doable. If you have the time to look for properties, and you have the ability, maybe of a couple $100,000 that you could buy something on your own, great. If you maybe don't have the capital, but you have some extra time, maybe find a partner who could bring some money to the deal, and maybe you go find the deal. Because in this business, the value is either in bringing the money or bringing the deal. And so you kind of just have to figure out, do you want to buy some on your own, or can you bring one of those puzzle pieces together with the partner to buy something that just gets you in the game?
So like when we like think of like real estate, especially like for me, multifamily, I think of generational wealth. And so I'm kind of confused in the process. How do you, like, say you have a management company, like how do you set it up so that do they continue to manage your properties for the generations to come, or do you have to like how do you set that up as far as like making sure your properties are always like being managed right?
It's a tough question. I would say it's hard to look out more than a couple years with a management company, you know. And management is not set it and forget it either. With a management company becomes a process that in the industry we call asset management. And I have a business partner, I argue with this all the time, and he's always talking about like, oh, they should be doing this, they should be doing this. I'm like, there comes a point where you just have to realize that property managers aren't perfect, and they're not going to do everything. And no matter what you tell them to do, they're going to miss things. And you know, I have a property manager in Michigan who's a great leasing agent, but he's super unorganized. And I'm like, dude, just send me emails or send me calendar invites for certain things, and he just won't do it because he's not organized. And so there's certain things that you always have to pick up the slack on, and you always have to watch them. So I actually have weekly calls or bi-weekly calls for almost every property we have with that's third-party managed with the managers, because if I don't, they feel like I'm not watching, and they don't pay good attention to the property. So I have to, even if it's just pretend, I have to watch them like a hawk to make sure they stay on top of their stuff. And in that process, I do look at the financials every week on almost every property, and you have to kind of babysit the manager. Yeah, you're babysitting. So it's tough to set up a unless you maybe have your own company, your own management company, or you hire asset managers. Let's say you go and buy 10 properties in Tampa, and that for you is your nest egg you want to give to your kids and your grandkids. Start a company and hire someone and train them and have them kind of grow with your company to like manage that relationship long term, because there may come a time when you need to switch management companies, and somebody's got to be there to oversee that, you know? Yeah.
And eventually,
Good questions.
they'll probably want to sell anyways. Maybe not your kids, but your grandkids. We've bought from multiple grandkids that just inherited a property, So that probably comes down to how you raise your kids and your grandkids too, right? To want, like, get them involved in the properties if you want them to inherit it. Otherwise, eventually they're probably just gonna sell it to David for a discount.
Honestly, or Chris, you know?
Awesome. Anybody else? No? David, thank you.
Thank you guys.
Yes,
Yes, thank you so much.
incredible.
Appreciate it. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much, man. Thank you.